Dan Illman, Mike Beer, race number 9 at Laurel Park on Saturday is the Grade 3 $250,000 General George Stakes. We're going 7/8 of a mile. Let's take a look at this field. It's a pretty solid group in here. Factor It In has been in raging form for trainer Carlos Mancia. The 5-2 morning line favorite has won his last 2 starts, and preceding those races were graded stakes placed performances in New York, beaten a half length or less both times. He's in good form right now, and he's very versatile.
Yeah, I think the versatility could be the biggest key for this race, Dan. Listen, just based on his current form, hard to argue with him being the morning line favorite in here. I personally don't think he has some kind of big edge on this field. And I'd be, sort of wary of taking a short price on anybody in this field, but he's certainly one of the horses to beat.
Let's take a look at the Timeform U.S. pace projector for this year's edition of the General George. No surprise here. Pirate Rick is a wicked fast horse. 7/8, the big question mark.
Yeah, I'd be worried about 7/8 with him too. He is really fast, and his good race is very good as well, Dan. So he's a dangerous horse in here if he's able to make the lead. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the number 3 Baron, because he's a horse who's also very fast. And I just personally think he's best when he makes the lead, Dan. I'd be surprised if they didn't try to send him.
Trainer Lynn Cash has 3 entrants in this year's General George. The number 1, Sir Alfred James, he claimed for $62,005 back in 2021. Last year alone, he made over $320,000 with Sir Alfred James, a winner in his first start of the year at Laurel, going 3/4. I'm not going to hold that last race going 2 turns at Charlestown against him.
Yeah, I'm not either, even though he's run well going 2 turns at Charlestown in the past. I don't really care about that race that much. I liked his effort 2 starts back when he beat a little bit of a weaker field. And it's not like he doesn't have plenty of races, Dan, that would give him a real chance in here. I don't find him to be the most consistent horse in the world, but his good race is very good, and he'll be a fair price in this race.
He was 3rd in this race last year with a little bit of a trip, and he might get a bit of a setup. This pace should be solid. Momos is the number 2, and it's been a long time between drinks for Momos, who hasn't won since 2021. His most recent start, a runner-up effort behind John the Bear. I thought he had his chance in that race, Mike.
I did too. I didn't really see his excuse in that race. More than anything else, Dan, it just kind of looks like he's a better turf horse than he is a dirt horse. And I'm not sure 7 furlongs does him any favors.
The number 3 is Baron. He's going to try to pull off a nice little double at Laurel Park. He won the DeFrancis Memorial last year, and now he's going to try to take the General George, the 2 major sprints at Laurel Park. And he's coming into this race off a win last time out. Butch Reed found a nice little allowance race for him at Parks, going 6.5 furlongs. He made the lead at 1-5, and he goes about his business in a workmanlike fashion. I thought he had to make 2 moves, 2 starts back in the Dave's Friend. He didn't break very well. He had to be hustled along to get into the race. Kind of got shuffled back down towards the inside and then re-rallied for second behind Factor It In, who had all the better of it on the front that day.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. He ran fine last time, sort of getting back on track and winning a race he was supposed to win. The race 2 back, I realized, Dan, that the 98 buyer who he earned there while chasing home second is the best figure of his career. It's not the best race that this horse has ever run, though. And I do kind of feel like Paco Lopez made a mistake there, Dan. This horse could have been put on the lead that day. They didn't go for it. He got cleared by Factor It In, and I think it cost him at the end. I think this horse is better when he's on the lead, and I think they got to send him here.
And he has been one of the better Mid-Atlantic-based sprinters for a very long time. Yodel E A, who has a puncher's chance. He is a true one-run closer, and he got a little bit of a setup, I guess, last time out in the fire plug when second behind Factor It In. He was far behind the leaders early. Factor It In really wasn't in any danger of losing, but Yodel E A, who was moving at the end of that 6.5 furlong heat, we'll see if he could sustain that run going 7.
Yeah, it's a pretty big question, but maybe this race will set up for him. I do think there's a chance that he gets a fast pace to run into here, Dan, and that will help this horse. I also think it's worth pointing out, I agree with you that he really finished up well that final furlong or so in the fire plug last time. He was really running, and it's also worth pointing out, Factor It In nailed this horse at the start. He bumped this horse really hard and knocked him back to last. This horse still ran pretty well.
John the Bear is the number 5, and he's in very good form for Claudio Gonzalez. He has excellent tactical speed. He also has the tendency to drift very badly in the stretch, and it's something the other riders need to take note of because he's going to be forwardly placed. Let's watch John the Bear's most recent start. This is one start after beating Momos. He's on the outside. He sat in second early. He takes over the lead, and then he gets to his antics. He starts drifting.
Yeah, it's a real problem for this horse. He's not going to be able to get away with it here as they step him up in class. I appreciate that this is a really good trainer who's gotten this horse good, by the way, Dan. 5 of his 6 career wins since Claudio Gonzalez claimed him. He's stepping him up at the right time. It's still a tough spot for him, and I just feel like it's going to be hard for him to get the trip that he wants against this field.
Cash claimed the number 6, Pirate Rick, our expected pace setter, for $50,000 in 2021, and he had a 3-race win streak snapped last time out in the toboggan. The win 2 starts back, a 104 Beyer speed figure. Now, maybe one of the excuses in the toboggan, Mike, is A, the winner, Rapo Rocks, just freaked with some gigantic Beyer speed figure that would win the Breeders' Cup Sprint many years, or maybe Mr. Cash, who likes to run his horses, wheeled this guy back a little bit too short.
Got to be some kind of an excuse for it because he was pretty bad last time. I didn't think that. He didn't even have to go that fast to make the early lead in there, and they didn't press him up the backstretch, but he just was pretty bad through the stretch there. Whatever the excuse was, it's not his best race. And as you've already pointed out, it probably didn't matter because he's not capable of running a 111 Beyer anyway. He was good 2 starts back. He was even better, in my opinion, 3 starts back when he really had to be used to make the early lead. I'm worried about 7, and I'm worried that Barron's going to press him early here.
Yeah, 7's a big issue. He was coming into the toboggan off a 6-day layoff. Now he has 3 weeks between races. Sort of similar timing to that big Beyer here in 2 starts back. Eastern Bay is the number 7, and he just missed in this race in 2020 when trained by Claudio Gonzalez. And Lynn Cash likes to claim horses with back class, and he felt he got a bargain with Eastern Bay, taking him for $35,000 back in April. He ran second in the Vosburg 2 starts back behind Elite Power, who of course won the Breeders' Cup Sprint, and here we see him making it real close in the Bold Ruler. He was out-sprinted early behind a solid pace. He angles to the far outside. He has all the momentum, Mike, and maybe he just hung a little bit in the last 100 yards when starting to flatten out.
Yeah, it looks like he goes by here, Dan. I think he gets his nose in front. And then I kind of agree with him. Maybe he hangs at the end. He's just going to miss at the wire in this race, but I still thought he ran really well. That was factored in. We saw in that replay the gray down towards the inside. He had a real shot at it too and just wasn't quite good enough. I thought this horse ran great last time. He ran really well 2 starts back. More than anything else, Dan, towards the end of last year, this horse was in the best form of his career, and I like that he's gotten a little break.
Another exclaimer completes the field. That's your morning line favorite. The number 8, Factor It In, was taken for $25,000 in 2019. He has won his last 4 races at Laurel Park. He's got a little bit of a home field advantage. In this race, the Fire Plug, coming on the heels of the Dave's Friend, in which he took the race to Barron and wired him. This time he sat off of the pace, found a good spot off dueling leaders, makes a bid turning into the stretch. You're going to see Yodel E A who come with a late run. He's really charging now, but it's too late to matter. Factor It In is home free.
Yeah, he runs really well in this race. It was actually a very easy win off of a good trip. And again, as you've already pointed out, also ran really well 2 starts back when they put him on the lead, which they don't have to do here. I mean, again, I don't really find it that easy to knock him. His overall form is really good. Towards the end of last year, the second part of last year, every race he ran in, he ran really well. He's got a great post here with tactical speed. There's a lot to like about him. We'll see what kind of price he is.
And he seems to love the life at Laurel Park, 8 for 12. Again, he's won his last 4 starts there. Top pick time for the General George Stakes. I went with Factor It In. I really respect your horse, Eastern Bay. I picked Barron 3rd. I think I'm keying my play on the 8 and 7, however.
Yeah, I could get behind that way of looking at the race too, Dan. I don't really have a big argument against Factor In, except that maybe he'll be the favorite, and this is a tougher race than the last couple he's been in. I'm just going to hope Eastern Bay comes back off this little bit of a layoff, gets a trip here, and runs his good race.
7-4-3-8 for Mike, 8-7-3-4 for me. It's the Grade 3 General George. It's one of 2 graded stakes races, 6 stakes races overall at Laurel Park on Saturday. Best of luck.